It's a very, very small group of people, many of them clueless.
Hi everybody, it's Gene Simmons, and you're not. This is Kiss My Collectibles podcast, but you know that.
Click T when you want a t-shirt. Click T, accessories too. Click T, any way you want it now at clicktshop.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Kiss My Collectibles. I am one of your co-hosts, Jason Herndon, and with me, as always, is...
Thank you, Fred Durst. I'm Nicholas Duncan.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
Since you put that hat on.
He used to do it all for the Nookie.
I did. Yeah, he used to do it all for the
exactly.
Nookie.
I no longer go anywhere near the Nookie due to social distancing
That's
laws.
right.
Yeah, and with me is
Joe Lalich. I have no way to follow that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So my hat is on backwards due to I haven't had a haircut in 2 months, and it is out of control. Nicholas clearly doesn't care. He can't even see.
longer. Yeah, exactly.
It's because his hair plugs never grow. I mean, they just...
Yeah, they don't.
He just puts them on the shelf at night. I mean, it's not like they're growing.
Yeah. Polyurethane doesn't grow.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, we hope everybody is doing as well as they can be. We're not going to do a what's in the box or anything like this because this is a continuation of our viewers' questions volume part 1 or whatever. So we're going to do part 2, finish up the questions that we didn't get to last time, and we'll just jump straight into it. Shall we?
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. All right. If I don't cough myself to death.
Nicholas and I are going to listen like thieves to the questions that you have coming up.
All right. So Tommy Thompson asks, what was the weirdest comment anyone has ever said to you when they realized that you were a Kiss fan? Not family or friends, just random people. You ever had anybody say anything odd to you when they figured, like if you were walking around and had a t-shirt on or anything? No?
No? You?
No? Like when I remember when I first brought something Kiss to school in the first grade, that all the girls thought they were satanic and thought I was a devil worshiper. But that was the first, of course, clearly, yeah. Killing cats, pentagrams, all of that stuff.
That's right.
But I don't think I've...
Which you did.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the satanic thing. I just hate cats.
It's been awesome if Jason said, but he just gone...
Exorcist style.
Yes.
But no, y'all have never had that happen to you before?
No, I mean, of course, it seems like you kind of get people who are either have to go, the dudes with makeup and the long tongue, you know what I mean? They kind of, and then people go, oh yeah, that band, or other people go, that band sucks, or people go, oh yeah, I'm a Kiss fan. That's kind of like, those are the 3 types of responses I typically get when I say I'm a Kiss fan,
But no one's ever called you any names, said you were...
Not because of Kiss.
Not because of Kiss, okay. Because, you hear stories of stuff like that happening, maybe in the high school years back in the 70s or the early 80s or something,
I think Tom Morello in his Hall of Fame speech about Kiss said, there were many fist fights, and for me standing up for Kiss when I was a kid and all that kind of stuff.
Growing up, Kiss was my favorite band. and it was not always easy being a Kiss fan. Just as Kiss were relentlessly persecuted by critics, their fans were relentlessly persecuted by the self-appointed arbiters of taste in middle schools and high schools across America. Arguments and even fistfights were not uncommon. I recall as a 15-year-old telling one bully, "You can kiss my Kiss-loving ass," because Kiss was never a critics band, Kiss was a people's band.
So yeah, I think it was probably two schools of thought, right? People just looked at him as a gimmick band. And I'm sure there was some of that went down, but no, never to me.
Right. And
I think
nothing odd in Australia?
no, well, not in Australia. In London, when I worked for Mojo magazine, once they found out I was a Kiss fan, it then meant that my opinion on anything musical was always they could always throw in, "Yeah, but you like Kiss." So it was almost like you've got zero taste. So you'd be talking about anything, Booker T and the MGs. You could say one song that you like first, and you go, "Yeah, but you like Kiss." So that was especially the British attitude toward British journalists, music journalists. It's almost like you like the Wiggles. The Wiggles are your favourite band, you know. That's the level of respect they had for Kiss. Except for the art director, Wag, who was a massive Kiss, Queen, rock fan. But all the actual journalists, the people who put the music forward, no, it was, they're on a much higher level than Kiss was. So.
Wow. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Did we cover this last time? I think we might have. There was a gentleman, Victor V, asked, what's the best way to store your vinyl? Did we talk about that?
I think it was one of the last questions on the last episode that we talked about. Yeah.
I think it
are
was.
Are these real names? We've got Tommy T followed by Victor V.
They're all Marvel characters. Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Peter
Victor
Parker.
V is actually, Victor V is actually VEE. So
Victor Von Doom.
Okay, cool.
Renee Mendoza asks, are there any other bands or artists that you collect as aggressively as Kiss, vinyl-wise? So we know Nicholas's answer is Queen now because he's now an avid Queen collector.
And he's not collecting Kiss just to be petulant, but that'll break sooner rather than later.
I can't afford Kiss. 2020 prices.
That's right.
Jeez, I'll be able to afford one album.
Yeah. But Joe, you have a pile of records behind you, so
I
elaborate.
I wouldn't say that there are any other bands that I collect nearly as aggressively, but I have some really valuable White Stripes records. I have some really valuable Nine Inch Nails records. But yeah, I mean, those bands just have less stuff to collect in general, and less kind of like higher end stuff, But yeah, I mean, it's weird. I guess I've kind of evolved a little bit in my vinyl collecting to now try and find a much broader type of record, stuff that I'm trying to think of an example. Like there's some very expensive Duran Duran records. There's some, there's just stuff like that I kind of either like to have or that I've accumulated through stuff for the store or stuff for myself. There's some Nirvana records that are very expensive, like the Mobile Fidelity Nirvana record is super expensive. So I guess my collecting is kind of around, it's the way that I collect Kiss, but just a lot of different bands, not
right.
one band.
Yeah,
Joe, what's your coolest and what's your most expensive one that's non-Kiss? Like in terms of if you were to resell it, and also what's the thing you just go, this is the coolest non-Kiss thing I own record-wise?
And that question is from viewer Nicholas Buckland in Australia.
Nicholas
Nuckland.
N.
So the White Stripes originally didn't put out Get Behind Me, Satan on vinyl. It was only out as a radio promo, and I think only in the UK. So for a long time, that was about a $600 record, somewhere in that range. And I had it back then when it was that valuable. Since then, they've come out with different pressings, and that's really brought the value of that record down, kind of to current market to maybe like 300-ish, somewhere around it.
Then we pressed 20,000 copies of it on Record Store Day 5 years ago.
Right, exactly.
Sorry about that.
So the way I do that math is Jason owes me about $400.
Right.
Personally. I'm trying to think of other things. I have Nine Inch Nails' Ghosts, which was a instrumental track that they put out, a bunch of instrumental tracks and experimental tracks that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross wrote. That one can be pretty expensive. So yeah, those are a couple of the cool things. Oddly enough, do you know Lisa Loeb and was it Nine Tails? I think is what her first band was. I think Lisa Loeb and Nine Tails. I think she has a record that's worth about $200. And I said that to a friend of mine the other day. I said, "Oh, and that there's some super valuable Lisa Loeb," and he just burst out laughing. I'm like, "No, man, seriously," because nobody was pressing records back then, and so even some records that you might not think from back in that time, like that Duran Duran record, the wedding record, can be very expensive. So yeah, it's interesting.
So you mean like post the CD revolution, where everyone got into CDs, and before vinyl sort of came back, there was a few things that came out which are now valuable.
Right, I'd say like 92 to 94-ish. It was very boutique. Like if somebody came out with a record back then, it was kind of like a weird oddball thing. As weird as cassettes seem right now.
Well, it's just like Kiss Alive 3, that and Revenge. Those came out on a boutique label, H&H Marketing. They just got licensing rights for them, and they did limited runs, and those records are pretty expensive, So at least $100, $125 a piece now.
Sure.
So, yeah.
There's some Lenny Kravitz records that are very expensive. There are some K.D. Lang records that are very expensive. This is just some strange stuff that you wouldn't expect, bigger names and people, household names that people know, but just because of the time that the records were pressed, they can be very expensive.
Right. As for me, I don't collect as much vinyl as Joe does. I have a ton of Kiss, and I never stopped buying Kiss records, even through the 90s. When I was in college, I was at used record stores all the time looking for Kiss records. And even when I sold my collection in the late 90s, I kept, a lot of my vinyl and sold off most of the merchandise. I got into, and especially when I started working in the record stores, I really got into CDs. And because promo CDs were flowing like crazy in the 90s and the 2000s, basically you'd get 2 or 3 or 4 copies of everything that came out from the record labels, promos sent to the store, in-store play stuff. So I amassed about 10,000 CDs, sold off a ton of them, and I've got it down now to 3,000 or 4,000. So out in this area back here, there's boxes and boxes of CDs. But
knowing you, I was going to say, you got it down from 10,000 to 9,500.
That's right.
I whittled it down.
When you say promo, do you mean the stamp? Do you mean the stamp, or do you mean the promo ones with the white photocopy thing with just the track listing on it?
Well, those are advances. Those that's different.
Okay, that's what we used to get in magazines. We never used to get the covers. It was just so that's different to promo, is it?
Right. So every record label, every field marketing rep would be driving around in their store or in their car with a trunk full of 30 count boxes of every record that come out, every CD that was coming out that week or the next couple of weeks or something like that. And, it would be the WIA rep or the Universal rep or something, and they would have, 25 new frontline major releases coming out, and every store that they would go to put up displays and stuff, they would hand you a stack of promos of all of those CDs. They would want you to put them in listening stations, put them behind the counter, and play over your PA system and everything in the store. And when 3 months later, when you've got the next batch, you've got to get rid of all the other stuff. So the employees just took that stuff home. So I was taking everything. It didn't matter what it was. I was taking it home. And
cash register.
A cash register, yeah.
Pulling stuff off the wall.
Cash.
Yeah, cash. The bank dropped the next morning. I was taking that home. No.
Spent 4 years in a federal prison, but it was good times.
Back then in the 90s, it was super cool to work in a record store because it was the height of the record industry. Bands were selling, 1 and 2 million copies of records the first week. Eminem, NSYNC, 50 Cent, all of that stuff that was coming out, just blowing out the door. And the labels were just giving shit away left and right. So you got CDs, concert tickets. That's how I saw all my shows. Everything that came to Nashville, I got free tickets for. Everything. Now it's like pulling teeth.
I just remember that era, even being over in London towards the end of the 90s and getting into HMV on Oxford Street. And there was just 5 or 6 counters, all with long lines. Like, they weren't lined up. They were just lined up to buy their CDs. It was just constant. Like, the amount of money they must have moved through in any singular day must have been phenomenal.
Even in our little stores that, I worked for a little family-owned chain of record stores, about 30 stores and a small distribution warehouse. When the new 50 Cent record come out, we wouldn't even put it out on the floor. Literally every other person that walked in the door would be like, "Oh, hey, you got the new 50 Cent?" And we'd just pull it out of boxes behind the counter. We'd have 500, 700 copies of it behind the counter and just sell nonstop. People didn't care how much it cost. It was crazy how how record stores used to be. But anyway, all of that being said, I do have some vinyl from bands that I love from 80s metal bands and stuff like that from that era. And if something from one of my favorite bands comes out now, it's, if it's compelling enough to, like, I bought the whole King's X catalog when it was reissued on vinyl, because some of those records had never been released on vinyl, like Dogman from 94, for example, and Ear Candy from 96. Yeah. Those never came out on vinyl, so to get those. And then, like, when, sometimes when something cool comes out, like, the Def Leppard box set that, has all of their records. There's 2 of them down here. I bought this because, I love Def Leppard. And, I might have Power Mania down here in another stack, but I'll still buy stuff like this that I think is cool. But I generally don't go out and buy vinyl from most of the bands that I love because it's too much. Way too much.
There's some records. I think we were talking about it the other day, Jason, off the air. We were talking about some things that I was looking to get, and you asked me some titles. And I had come up with the Live Like a Suicide, the Guns N' Roses thing, that Leather Records, Motley Crue, Too Fast for Love, that very early version that they were basically handing out at shows.
3 of them. There's 3 versions.
Right. Yeah, there's 3 pressings, right?
It's increasingly more expensive as you go back.
Exactly. And I think, like, at the height, that can be around $1,000, $700 record. The initial.
I think the very first one is probably around $1,500.
Yeah.
It's
they're
tough to
they're
find.
expensive and tough to find. Yeah, in any event. So those are the kinds of things that. So there's not one band, but there's that kind of cool, super rare stuff that I'm looking for.
Right. Yep. Same here. Mm-hmm. All right. Good question. Brett Seipels, our buddy Brett Seipels asks, when is the Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits remixed, Kiss My Wax remixed episode going to happen?
Yes.
Maybe we should have Brett on because he has Smashes from every country, I believe.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah.
Brett, you want to come on the show? You can replace Nicholas.
Yeah. Only if he's Australian. Is Brett Australian?
I don't know.
Because if he's not, I'll have to get his citizenship. That's going to take a little while.
That's right. All right, let's see.
So what did he mean? Sorry, I didn't understand that question. Does he mean a skip or play on?
No. When we do the Kiss My Wax remastered, when we do, Joe and Dave have been going back and covering records, right? So he wants to know when
Nicholas is unaware of that show, Jason.
He doesn't know. Doesn't know what we do.
If I'm not on it, I don't know what this is.
If I can't watch myself.
What's funny is the fucker does watch it, and he makes notes on it and sends it to me, but he still doesn't know what the hell it is.
That's right. Yep, still pretty.
Oh my God! I'm gorgeous!
Yeah. I don't know. We may be a little too young for this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. F-Man from Australia has a cool Australian-run KISS Facebook group, and he always shares our episodes.
Very cool.
He asks, how did you react when KISS took off their makeup, and did the unmasking put you off of KISS in any way? Y'all have a couple of years on me, not much. I was too young.
I don't really remember it. Do you, Nicholas?
I remember my reactions to seeing them without makeup later, but that was yeah, that definitely wasn't 83. It was probably when Crazy Nights came out. It was the first time I ever knew they didn't have makeup, or even knew they were still going. And I just remember seeing them in all those music mags, like Hit Parader and all that. I just always remember they just didn't look as cool, or as they look like, yeah, like your uncle. Your uncle's got divorced. I always said, look, they look like your uncle's got divorced and now he's back on the dating scene in the same bar as you, kind of thing. And it's like you could tell they were a generation older, and they all had the same share hair and stuff like that.
See, I thought they looked really, really cool on the cover of Lick It Up. I thought they did a great job of not looking crazy on that cover. But then every subsequent record after that, Asylum and Animalize and Man Oh Man, that stuff was something else. Crazy Nights, Thongs.
Yeah. I certainly don't remember the MTV I don't remember the MTV unmasking because I didn't have MTV. I lived in a small town that didn't have it. That was very early on. And, I certainly had Creatures when it came out. I went to the Creatures tour. I was 7 years old. I would have been 8 when they took their makeup off. I certainly had Lick It Up the year it came out. So I would have saw that, the album cover, clearly, because my parents were just buying me the new KISS record. But I don't have any recollection whatsoever of my response. I just know that my fandom of the band never waned for any reason, like a lot of people talk about that have been on the show, where they got into the late 80s and went some different direction and got back into KISS when the reunion happened. So that never happened to me. So... But
yeah, I was never not a fan either. I was always a fan, and really in a lot of ways that was kind of my time to love the band, was really Asylum and Crazy Nights, like that. That's when I was old enough to really call them my band, And I remember trying to get as many magazines with photos of them in makeup as I could back then, because it just wasn't readily available. And it was the stuff of legend. That's why for me, '96, the reunion stuff meant so much to me. When I saw them at Tiger Stadium for the first time ever in makeup, it was like, it was crazy for me, because I just never thought that would ever happen, that I'd get that experience.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. When I saw them in Louisville on the second show, the next 2 nights later or whatever it was. Yeah, I saw them in Louisville. Was in tears at the beginning of that show, because I just never imagined.
Yeah,
but I think they didn't get their coolness back until I think it was the Bill and Ted's movie and God Gave Rock and Roll to You, and then into Revenge they suddenly became cool. I mean, for me, because I didn't go on that journey of those bands, like I just sort of lumped them in with Bon Jovi, Europe, KISS, or all that. Whereas the bands that I like look like AC/DC or Metallica, and Justice for All era Metallica. So it was kind of they were still pushed into that kind of category in my mind, and they sort of somehow became cool for Revenge and God Gave. I think because I like Bill and Ted's, I thought, oh, okay, they're back with a cool sound again. They don't sound like anyone else. They sound like a modern KISS all of a sudden. So it's like they got. But then I do think if we're talking about the actual minute they unmasked, I thought Lick It Up only sounded like KISS. They didn't sound like anyone else on that. They sounded like a modern, whatever 83 was, a modern version of KISS. They weren't aping anyone. It didn't get till Crazy Nights and where they actually tried to sound like someone else,
Right.
In my mind, anyway,
No, I get that. It's funny, because we have these discussions off air a lot about that era, which we won't get into here. But it's just funny how a lot of fans on your side of the thing that were fans of Metallica and the heavier bands laughed at the other side of the coin. But a lot of people that I knew personally, and me personally, that were fans of Rat and Motley Crue and Poison and Dokken and all those bands, also liked Metallica and Slayer and Anthrax and those bands. You know, we embraced that, and it didn't go. It wasn't reciprocal. So,
but maybe I think that I've always said that it could have had a lot to do with Australian culture in that time. There's that kind of sort of not. I wouldn't say misogynist, but I'd say there's a very much a blokes are blokes and girls are girls, and that girls' music was Rat, Bon Jovi, Europe, and boys' music was Metallica, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, and there was that massive division. It's interesting that Guns N' Roses kind of moved into that male kind of music camp, you know, even though their very early videos, I think it was Welcome to the Jungle, I think Axl's got his hair up super high in that one as well. But then it was something about that Rolling Stones kind of vibe. They kind of fitted with when the Black Crowes started coming into that kind of, you know, that revision of that Stones looking kind of era and stuff.
Notice he's leaving out all of the 80s metal bands that were considered what that genre of music was called was the fucking word just slipped right out of my sleaze. You know, it was like sleaze rock. You know, you know, that sort of thing. You know, it didn't go from Guns N' Roses to Black Crowes. It went from Guns N' Roses to L.A. Guns to Faster Pussycat to all of those, because that was all. I mean, those guys. The guy that started L.A. Guns was the guy that was in Guns N' Roses. Part of his name is in that band. You know, so you know, it was that whole scene. But anyway, it was the same in the U.S. Pretty much most of the guys that were hardcore, you know, especially if they were heavier fans like Slayer but the early speed metal and stuff like that, definitely didn't like, you know, glam metal or hair bands or whatever.
Yeah, you weren't catching guys who listened to Anthrax and Megadeth listening to the Poison record ever.
No.
But it went the other way
certainly
around.
The other way around. I certainly had, you know, Poison and Metallica and Anthrax. Absolutely. I love all those bands. Yeah. So this is interesting, and that's a very interesting discussion for a very different podcast that we may start one day. Who knows?
I'll have to start answering some Kiss questions soon.
Let's see. Tommy Ogle asks, any future special guests for the podcast you can announce yet? Any idea if you'll do a John 5 Part 2? Anyone famous? Do you know if Kiss My Wax will ever get the authorization to do future official colored vinyl anniversary Kiss albums? And all kinds of questions he's asked.
Okay, so no, maybe, no, probably not, but maybe, and probably not.
All right, next question.
All right.
Now you want to break down that into questions so we can answer each one, or answer the best ones. Yeah.
Well,
because my memory's not that long. What was the first question?
Any future special guests that we can announce for the podcast? I don't want to announce it, but actually, by the time you've seen this, you've already seen it. So you just saw another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, you just saw another one. Hope you enjoyed our episode with John 5 again, because, you know, everybody had already seen it by now.
Yeah.
As far as future beyond that, we don't have anybody lined up right now as far as famous.
We'd like to have Sebastian on, wouldn't we? I think we'd like to have Sebastian Mark come on. He recorded an early one with you guys, and then it all stuffed up with taping. If you want to explain that to what happened, you know,
no.
South.
Well, I'm not sure. You know, something definitely stuffed up with the recording because the audio was screwed up and the video was screwed up, and I sent all of those files to 3 or 4 video editors, and they couldn't do anything with it. But yeah, I would love to have Sebastian on. I chat with him every now and then, and I would actually love to do an episode with Sebastian and John at the same time because they're buddies and they kind of play off each other. That would be fun. But yeah, we'll always reach out to people, but nobody's lined up. So we'll see. Who do you want to have on? Who do you want to ask other than Sebastian? Anybody in particular? No.
I think
besides the obvious.
I think I'd like to have more people. Yeah, I'd like to have more people from around the globe, like all your, you know, all the people from our groups who are sort of more sort of, you know, maybe they're specialists in certain areas. I'd love to have, you know, Tommy Camino, is that how you say it? On about the trade ads and stuff.
I've talked to Tommy. Tommy has agreed to come on. I've talked to Perstrid. Perstrid has agreed to come on. I've talked to. We're probably going to have John Hadgis on again. There's a couple of guys that I would love to have come on, and I've asked them. John McCoy, he's got an incredible collection, but he just doesn't want to come on, and that's fine. I understand that. There's a couple of people I've spoken to that's like, I just don't want to be on camera, and that's fine. But yeah, all of those people I've spoken to and talked to regularly, and we definitely will have them on. It's all about scheduling, so let's get them set up.
Yep.
And then he went on to ask if Kiss My Wax will ever get the authorization to do future color vinyl releases or anything. Who knows? We have our contacts at Universal. I'll reach out. They're doing them on their own. They don't really need a middleman. So there's not really a reason to involve anybody outside, other than for maybe ideas. But you never know. Maybe we'll try. We would love to. We would absolutely love to. All right. Brian Rowe asks, what's the most expensive Kiss collectible that you have ever seen, and how much was it sold for?
I think we covered this one last time, right? Wasn't it
I think it was
the tour book
posed differently.
Yeah. So maybe cut that one and then go into the next question.
Well, fine then. I don't know if it... All right, let's see. What is up next? Okay, so Ryan Madison... This will probably have to be me and you, Joe. Ryan Madison says, as a younger Kiss fan, and that's cool that we have those, and a broke college student, what are some cheaper pressings or bootlegs that I can get my hands on first while I can? So, he's looking for cheap records.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, most of the early U.S. pressings can be had fairly inexpensively, right?
Sure.
You can get a U.S. copy of almost all the records inexpensively, especially if you're not looking for all the inserts or an unpunched love gun or any of that kind of stuff. You can probably find those types of records between $8 and $20 pretty much all day long, I'd say, depending on condition. So, I think any of that stuff, really all the records are easily obtainable between $8 and $20 in some sort of, even the vintage ones, back in the 70s, you can get all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you're not looking for complete dead mint or, some odd pressing, maybe the first album without Kiss in Time or something like that. If you're just looking for a regular pressing, you can usually get those pretty cheap. As far as bootlegs go, modern bootlegs generally tend to be very expensive. And then the really early bootlegs also tend to be very expensive. So that's a tough question. I tell you what, Ryan, ask that question in the group to Pablo and see if he can answer that. Because Joe, you don't collect bootlegs too much, do you?
No, not hardly at all. I mean, I have some from back in the day that I had bought at some either record shows or Kiss conventions or whatever.
Right.
And I think they're fairly inexpensive. I think it was an Animalize bootleg called Barbarize. That I think can still be had fairly inexpensively. So there's stuff out there. I would also say too, the price has come down greatly on the 2014s, mostly. Right. They were around anywhere between $30 to $50 when they first came out, and now you can pretty much find them each for about $20 to $30 maybe. So if you're looking to kind of relive that experience and have posters and inserts and all that stuff, and looking for fidelity, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. Matt Sleeper has a two-part question. The first one says, I have the question that everyone wants to know the answer to. Did John 5
save Kiss?
No.
Oh.
Get a Kiss extension cord yet?
Just kidding.
He did, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
If you watched our last episode, he announced that he did locate an extension cords.
Yes.
Yeah. Next time he has to get a light. So yeah. Each episode he needs to. Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, but seriously, what about a what if question? What if the reunion never happened? Would they be where they are today, and if so, with who? Dead air.
Nicholas.
I'd like to know. I'd like to know if the reunion didn't happen, whether they'd end up back in makeup. So whether they would jump straight into we're back in makeup with the full show, and we've got 2 replacement members. So just let's say, for argument's sake, it was Tommy and Eric. You know, would that still be successful? I think it would be. I mean, the reunion was a phenomenal thing, obviously. But I still think if you'd been star for seeing the band in costumes and in makeup, you'd jump straight into. If that was the first, that we're coming back, but with 2 other guys, I think people would still pay to see that show. But would they be in the same place? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if the popularity would be quite as big, but yeah, I do agree that people would have lost their shit to see it anyway. You know, but what about you, Joe? Would you have went to see it? If Tiger Stadium was Paul Jean, Tommy and Eric, or Paul Jean, Bruce and Eric in makeup, would you have gone to see it?
It probably would have never been at Tiger Stadium, but
okay.
I
Cobo Hall.
Yeah. Of course I would have gone. I'm a Kiss fan, you know, kind of through all the eras. It's interesting though, you know, boy, if they wouldn't, you know, they would have come out with Carnival of Souls, right? Mm-hmm. That thing would have probably bombed. As much as I like the record, I think it's, you know, it's a different thing. It's a very different take on Kiss music, you know, but I think there's some decent stuff on there. But boy, so that thing bombs. Then what do you do to circle the wagons after that with that current lineup? I don't, you know, then they would have spent the next 2 years talking about how the next record's going to sound like Destroyer and Revenge, you know, or something like that. And
they did that anyway with Psycho Circus. So.
Right. So I don't know. I kind of, you know, it's weird. You know, you see bands like Aerosmith and Def Leppard, although they have majority original members still in there, who saw some resurgence and were able to do like Vegas residencies. Would Kiss have had a resurgence? So interesting. I don't know. I don't know.
Look at GNR. They got back together without the original lineup. Technically, there was no Steven and no Izzy. So, but then the tour was still successful because it's the people that you kind of wanted to see back. You know, it's the guy in the hat and the guy and the vocalist back together again, and you know, throw in the bass player, and it's still Guns N' Roses. And that was one of the most successful tours. That most recent.
But they
one,
hadn't been
it?
together, period, for a long time. You know. I mean, they just hadn't been together at all. Kiss had kind of been putting out records, you know, and doing things, and you know.
Yeah.
Well, Guns N' Roses was still touring. I mean, they toured just a couple of years prior to that, but it
was only Axl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Only Axl.
Yeah. So what's saying is like it doesn't require the full original members as long as it's, you know, like people would go, I'd love Steven and Izzy to be there, but / Axl. Close enough for me.
So you're saying
you know what I mean?
The missing component was the makeup. It wasn't Slash. It wasn't another member. It was the missing component was the makeup.
I think Ace and Peter to come back was why they played Tiger Stadium and why that tour was so successful, to have the original members come back and do it again. That's a component. But the other component was just most people who went and saw it, a lot of people hadn't never seen them in makeup before.
Right. Yeah, and
so
the
you're
show
getting
was
the
stuff of
makeup,
legend,
the show, the
know?
bombs, and exactly. So it's like theirs is a double sort of two things coming together, which is why it was the most successful tour of 96, 97 for that reason.
Would have been interesting if they would have taken, you know, the Revenge, like the Carnival Souls lineup. That would have been the lineup in makeup, and then what would have been the musical output? You know, because we basically got Psycho Circus and then nothing.
Yeah.
You know, forever. And they were much more prolific with Eric and Bruce in the band. Would they have continued to put out records and kept the makeup on? And I mean, it's those hypotheticals are always interesting to think about.
Well, and I think things changed where you didn't need a record to tour behind anymore. You could just tour.
Right.
Nostalgia acts became a big thing because I think at that point a lot of bands had been around for such a long time that you just wanted to see the nostalgia acts again, over and over and over and over again. Right? These people make a living on the summers. So Fleetwood Mac isn't so enthused to get back in the studio, but they sure as hell will, sell out, 50 dates on a summer tour or something,
Right.
Yeah, and maybe we'll throw a greatest hits in there, a new version of a greatest hits to move some product at all. Like Kiss threw in Greatest Kiss, at the time, it probably sold a lot of copies. Fleetwood Mac, I think, have thrown out a couple of compilations in this time. They had that 50 album with all their eras, and they'll throw something out there around that time of them touring. But
sure.
Yeah, it's not to promote it, is it? Really?
Yeah, it wasn't the reason to tour. Yeah, you kind of wonder if Kiss would have become, if they wouldn't have put on the makeup, would they have become like a band like Lynyrd Skynyrd or like Hall & Oates or Chicago, or these bands who just sort of tour these small amphitheaters all over the planet during this, all over the states during the summer, and they're not very big. They're not 22,000 seat arenas. They're like 8,000 seat amphitheater kind of places.
They'd be part of the Kiss Styx REO Speedwagon summer tour package.
Yeah. You kind of wonder, and then that just doesn't fit what Kiss was. Kiss was always bigger than life, and it seems like a demotion. So it seemed like the only way to go, was to be, to get back and put the makeup on. So,
right.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let us know what you think about that one. It's an interesting question.
And answer all these questions below. So, let's see. Bert.
Hey, Bert.
Not Bert.
Bert.
Brett. Bert. Brett Beach. Bert. Brett Beach, not Red Beach. Brett Beach says, "Where are all of the Let Me Go Rock and Roll singles? Why so scarce? Extremely limited pressing? Lost? Destroyed?" So, it's all speculation.
Oh, these you mean?
Yeah.
I think we're something, I think.
He opens a window and he's frisbee golfing them out the window. So, Brett is asking about, and of course, if you've been a member of Kiss My Wax for any length of time or collect any of this stuff, and I know there's a ton of new members and maybe a lot of people that haven't went back and watched the old Kiss My Wax episodes, but there was a stock pressing of Let Me Go Rock and Roll with Hotter Than Hell on the backside. It's nearly impossible to find. I think there's only 3 documented copies in existence right now. I'm sure there's more, but as far as what people know, I think there are 3. And I know that Julian Gill has some paperwork. I think it's a royalty statement for like 125 copies of that record selling, and that's the only number that we've been able to find. Does that mean there were only 125 copies pressed? Who knows? But the thing is, that came very late in the game. You can find much easier, but still pretty difficult to find, the Let Me Go Rock and Roll Over promo, which has mono and stereo A and B side. I actually have a copy of that. But the stock copy with Hotter Than Hell on the other side is incredibly limited. And I think, personally, it was probably just a small run. It didn't sell. And that was it. And there's some out there, and who knows where they're at.
I mean, it's not till people pass on, isn't it? Because there may be people who've had them in a box for bought it at the time, and it's just part. I'm not getting rid of my vinyl, and maybe they'll get rid of it when they're maybe they're 60 now, but it may not even come out of their garage to be sold by their children until they're 70 or 80 or something. Those kind of things. I've always said 45s must be hard to find in the wild, because at the very least, if you go into a record store and they've sort of stacked them somehow, you can at least read on the spine if you want to take your time and read what they are. I don't know if you've ever seen in a store where they've got thousands,
of course we have,
of 45, you just go, I can't even be bothered to flick through that.
It's a pain in the
like-
ass.
It's a pain in the ass to actually look at you can't even, there's no way of quickly scanning with your eyes. You have to actually physically flip through them all.
Right.
I don't know.
What was your thoughts, Joe?
Maybe that's it.
You were about to say something.
Yeah, that royalty statement is weird. So 125, that just seems like a weird. It just seems like a weird amount, right? Like, we all know how pressing plants work. It takes 125 of these damn things to get the press up and running, damn near. You know what I mean? To make sure it's just it's so odd. I guess it's a long way of saying I have no idea. It just seems like strange.
There were clearly, of those first three records, there were not a ton pressed originally. I mean, and I think they sold, eventually before the band broke with Alive, in the 60 to 80,000 mark. So when you see that is your number, why are you going? You're not going to run 100,000 copies of a single. You're going to do a small run. Now, do you run 125? No, I don't think so. I think you may do 500 or 1,000 or 1,500 or something like that, and get them out in the stores and see how they perform. We'll never know exactly how many of those records were pressed, but it's just bizarre. Like when you talk about the Alive 2 misprint, and then the rumor forever that was false of there only being 50 copies, and we still see that thing popping up today. We still see it. We never, ever just see someone stumble across this particular single. So
would that 125 include, like, say, I'm just guessing here, like 80 copies sent to radio stations? So
No.
To get it out to the shops, or was it actually, is that direct to shops? Is it?
These are stock copies. That's why I said at first. That's why I was saying there's the promo copy, which is Let Me Go Rock and Roll on both sides, mono stereo. That's the promo that was sent to radio stations. That has nothing to do with this. There are no royalty statements.
I thought they may have sent them off as well as extras to radio stations.
No, there's no royalty statements on promo copies. Nobody gets royalties on that. So we're talking totally stock copies. Let Me Go Rock and Roll on one side, Harder Than Hell. And these are the copies that would have been pressed to put in the stores, and that's the only number that we've been able to put on that. I think there was more pressed of it, but where are they at? Did they only go to shops on the West Coast? Or there's just really no fucking way of knowing. We'll never know. But I just know they never come up.
But where's that Return of Kiss tour book? If you go, there's that rumor that it was sold at one date. You go, surely we've seen people line up for tour books. There must be, I don't know, even on a bad night, they must have sold, with 10,000 people in an arena, they must have sold, I don't know,
couple
200, 300, even 1,000, or even, and if you say they sold 1,000 and 700 didn't make it, through the years of, there should be still 300 floating around. There's got to be some weird story with that Let Me Go Rock and Roll and the Dynasty thing as well. There must be some other story where we think maybe something happened and it didn't actually make it out to the stores, or I don't know. I'm just guessing, because it should be out there otherwise.
Yeah, that's a good point, Nicholas.
Maybe there was a decision to say, hey, we don't want that as the B-side. Maybe we think that could be a hit, Hotter Than Hell. Like, who knows what the discussions are. Another thing, is it possible that we've talked a lot about how many niche, how quickly the Kiss fandom niche gets smaller and smaller, right? So you talk about Kiss collectors in general, then you talk about maybe Kiss vinyl collectors, it gets smaller. Toy collectors, vintage collectors, like the focus gets narrower and narrower, right? And for somebody who collects singles, I'll go into record stores often and look through the LP section for Kiss stuff. But Nicholas, to your point, it's so daunting to even get near 45s, and they're their own separate beast. I wonder if there are just some out there. I mean, obviously there are, but I wonder if there's more than...
sure there
are. I wonder if there's more than we think. Because here's the thing about singles, right? You can't quickly go through, like you were saying, Nicholas, and go, oh, that cover is different than that cover, and you know what you're looking for quickly. it all has the same markings on it. You have to actually take it, look at it, read it, flip it over, read it, put it back, take it out. They all look the same.
The only thing that gives me pause about that particular theory is that the singles that came before it, the singles that came after it, and even the promo version of the single, seems readily available on the market. Relatively available on the market. You can put in a search in eBay for the "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" promo single, and it's going to pop up once every couple of months, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months, or something like that. This thing never pops up. Why is that?
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. It's bizarre.
It's a weird one, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But a good question. I wish we had I wish somebody would find out a more concrete answer. Julian Gill, if you're watching this, post your thoughts below. Scott Pickens asks, how do you budget for collectibles, especially if you have families?
Nicholas Buckland.
Yes.
This is a question for you.
This is directed directly towards you.
You slow down. Yes. As the amount of money needed as your kids get older and everything, starts increasing, and in a lot of cases, unless money's no object. I always look at that kind of stuff as a pause. I go, you sort of might slow down through a period of your life, and then, kids get older, and then you'll have a bit more disposable income, and you jump back into that kind of thing. So that's the way I look at it. I don't look at anything's ever over. You just have periods of your life where things grow, things recede, grow and recede, just based on your circumstances. And obviously the circumstances that most people find themselves in at the moment is going to affect the amount of stuff that's probably going to be unloaded to eBay, through people selling just to, probably make ends meet. But will there be as many people out there buying? That's also the question, if their finances are down. So it's an interesting, even just to say the family's one thing, but even just to say if you just look at the family as maybe as a certain time in your life where you have a bit more financial restrictions, let's see what happens over the next 6 months with it, where everyone's on some type of financial restriction. Be interesting.
Yeah, it's, for me with my family, and of course everybody does things differently, or there's maybe a couple of trains of thought. Mine and my wife's income, the money that comes into the house is combined, and I know a lot of people do it separately. I'm pretty sure that Joe and his girlfriend do things separately, and that's fine, whatever works for your family. But everything in my house comes into one pot, and we have one kid, and as far as budgeting, it ebbs and flows. It just depends on take coronavirus out of all of this. It just ebbs and flows, even when things are normal. If we have our bills are what they are, and after we pay those, and after we buy our food and set money aside to do stuff with the family, whatever's left over, Stacy gets to buy some stuff, I get to buy some stuff, we buy some stuff for Bella. That's the way it is, My stuff's usually the most expensive. They don't need to know that, but then you need to buy a new car, and all of a sudden you just injected a $400 car payment into your bills. Well, something's got to get cut, and that's going to be the discretionary KISS money that I spent. So all of a sudden I'm buying much less KISS items until that car gets paid off or some other bill gets paid off, I'm lucky enough to have those, or had been lucky enough to have those record store day events where I get large commission checks, where it's always just kind of been agreed between me and Stacy that I would take some of that stuff. We'd pay off bills and buy stuff for the house, and I would take a little bit of that money and buy some cool KISS stuff that I couldn't normally afford on my regular check. So it's going to be different for everybody. You just got to make sure your essentials are paid for, your food is paid for, and then...
Yeah. Look, I don't think any three of us would do anything which would jeopardize our entire. We whatever we can afford, we will spend the money on. If some of us have more disposable income or less, then that's what it is. I think it's as long as your family's not suffering. Like Joe's not going to buy. Even if Joe has more money, then he's not going to go buy a $50,000-$60,000 item that month. Maybe not, depending on what's going on at the time. We're all sensible, in terms of
what
we spend our money on, basically.
Sure, it's a good question though, because you'll get people that they don't have that kind of control, and they just impulsively buy, and then all of a sudden, they're. I know someone that does that. They will buy a whole bunch of stuff. It's maybe not necessarily KISS stuff. It'll be a bunch of expensive items, and then before you know it, the money is tight, and then they have to start selling that stuff off. And it's like, man, that sucks that you have to do that. Just buy the amount of stuff that makes sense, that doesn't put you in a hole where you don't have to end up selling it off later on. It just makes that kind of stuff makes me sad, because a lot of people aren't fiscally responsible, and a lot of people are. So, do you budget, Joe, or you just buy whatever the hell you want?
It's weird. I'm in a totally different circumstance because I'm freelance, right? So I don't have a regular check coming in. So for me, it's completely touch and feel. I really,
right.
You just kind of weigh things, and even times where I have more money than not, I'll really think about, well, what does July and August look like? I have no idea what it looks like, So if I get a big job that comes in, then I go, oh, maybe I can get that record, or I can do this or that. But other times, I don't know, man. For me, it's just really touch and feel, because I don't have a sustained every 2 weeks this amount of money's coming in, relatively speaking. So I just I have to guess, but you just have, like you said, you have to be very sensible about it, and just what can you afford. I will say, however, there are times that when things come up that you'll just never ever see, I'll find ways to do it. I'll you'll find a way to put it on credit, or to do something where you can pay it over time, or do whatever where you don't have to take that
or sell some other items that that you can get back again much more easy than like buying the LeMahieu de Kiss records. It's like, hey, this record may be whatever, $500 or $900 or whatever the price may be. I'm going to figure out a way to buy it, and I'm going to sell these 10 records to make the money because I know I can get these back, because they do pop up from time to time. So
and as we know, collecting takes time too. So I think all of us have got house insurance. So if fire burnt all your KISS stuff and that, or even John 5, who would if a fire burnt all his KISS stuff, it would still take him a long time to replace, not just purely through, you go, okay, well, the insurance company sends me the money. I can, now I've got this big bag balance and go out and buy it all again. You go, no, you can't, because it just doesn't show up after this stuff. It takes a long time. It can be some stuff. We've all got stuff in our collections which took about maybe 4 or 5 years before we even saw it pop up, or maybe we haven't even seen it again, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Good question. More MA says, I still think you ought to do an 8-track episode with someone like Tom Daniels. Well, I have been saying since the beginning of Kiss My Collectibles that I want to do an 8-track episode. I am heavily into collecting 8-tracks, and I would love to do one. And I did ask Tom Daniels a long time ago, because Tom has an amazing 8-track collection and he knows a ton about them. He just never wanted to come on, and that's fine. May reach out to Tom Manning, somebody like that, because I know he has a nice 8-track collection. It just may be me and Nicholas doing an 8-track episode, because he has a lot. No?
Me.
Your name is Nicholas, right?
What you talking about, Kimberly?
8 what?
8 what? He still doesn't know what we're talking about. So
I've literally never held an 8-track. Yeah, I know what they are. Of course.
Yes, but yeah, I would absolutely love to do them. It's fascinating. You usually have to get someone from the U.S. or Canada, because that's the only places they were based. I think there's at least 1 or 2 Australian Kiss 8-tracks. They're super hard to find, and they're really cool. But yeah, that was kind of a North American phenomenon back then. And but I would love to do one, and we will do one. Just got to find the right person to get on that'll come on. So Jason Roth asks, have you guys ever accidentally damaged
Jason
something?
Leroy.
Do what?
Jason Leroy.
Jason
Anyone who's got the
Lee-
last name.
I got badoom. Jason Lee Roth says,
His new name.
he's crazy for me.
David's less successful brother. Jason.
I think Dave would be the unacceptable brother.
No,
Jason's the same
unsuccessful.
one.
I said less successful.
They said unacceptable.
So Jason Roth asks, have you guys ever accidentally damaged something in your collection?
Oh yes.
Oh yes. Let's hear the story then.
Accidentally?
Yeah,
Accidentally on purpose.
No, we're not counting all the ones I've actually ruined through stupidity. Yeah, okay. And sticking stickers on the front of my history book that don't come off. No, I did. Yeah. No, my worst one. I'll see if I've still got photos of it because it's away now. But yeah, I had the very big British Attack of the Phantoms poster, and I was moving the very room I'm in now when we first moved to the mountains, and I just had it, and I pushed back on moving a cupboard, and the whole thing just went crack, like straight through the edge of right in Peter's spoiler, right in so smash through the glass, not just smash through the glass or the plastic. It then put a big jagged thing, where it kind of cuts a rip and then it folds it like an accordion back where the rip is. So it's, yeah. I've kept it I moved it recently when I changed the room around, but yeah, I had it up there. And you can't really notice it until you get to a certain thing and realize there's actually a hole in there. So yeah, that's what I've accidentally ruined.
I have two stories I'll share. One, and I know I've done much more than this. Because when you store your shit like I do, of course, you're going to accidentally damage something. But, right, Joe?
You said it, not me.
One of the things I did when I was young, I guess I didn't understand, or maybe I forgot. I didn't think about warping. And my aunt used to babysit me, or my aunt used to babysit me when my parents would work. And whenever I would go to her house, which was about 15 minutes away, I would take all my Kiss records with me. And I probably had about 15 at the time. This was in the early 80s. And I remember coming back home. And for some reason, I had those records in the back window of the car. It was, a four-door car. It was and put them in the back window. And I left them out there for some reason. Came out the next day, every single one of those records were warped like a bowl.
Yeah.
Out in the hot sun. So had to get all of those Kiss records again. But as an adult, so I have the Japanese box set that has all the colored vinyl in it. And it's got a odd bag. Well, I don't guess it's odd, but it's got a bag on it that's kind of taped in a couple of different ways that has the obi attached to it. And so, you pop those pieces of tape up if you want to open this thing up. And I can't remember if it was when I was pulling it out or putting it back in, one of those pieces of tape got stuck down onto the front of the box where the logo is. And when I tried to pull it back up, it ripped some of the silvering of the logo, made me sick at my stomach, So I hate even like resealable sleeves and all that stuff. I am always nervous when I'm putting records back. It's, I just know that I'm going to get something stuck to the front of a cover or something and just ruin it. But I've done that. Did that to my box set. You ever accidentally screwed something up?
No, I mean, I had the same experience with warping a record, but I think everybody did at one point or another, right? I had it in a bedroom, and Kiss Alive 2, one of the discs got horribly warped in the sun as but yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, I guess that's...
I just thought of something else. That same aunt, I remember getting double platinum, which was a 2 LP set. And I was playing the second record on her turntable, and I was in her room with my uncle's fishing poles, and I was playing Paul Stanley, and I was slamming the pole down on the bed like I was breaking the guitar, and I smashed it right on the cover of Double Platinum. It put a hole right through the cover and through right in the middle of like Calling Dr. Love. Just a hole, just busted out a hole right in the eye of the fishing pole. I hadn't thought about that in years, but
Yeah.
I did a lot of stupid shit like that. Good question. Anthony McCree, Macri. How would you say that? McCree?
McCry.
McCry. Says, what do you see Kiss collecting like after the end of the road tour is over? Will there still be continuing interest in the band, in collecting the band, or will it die out?
Does the touring matter? Whether they tour or not tour, does that drive?
I think he's just saying when
collecting
Kiss is done. I think he's just saying when Kiss is done. You know, the band is.
It hasn't affected the Beatles, has it, or Elvis? You know,
Elvis is tanked. Elvis memorabilia has tanked.
But I think, but again, that's got nothing to do with him touring. That's got to do with the people getting old, and
correct.
There's no younger generation coming in and collecting. So I think age will be the thing which will kill the Kiss collecting. When is there a new lot of on our groups? How many 25-year-olds are getting into hardcore Kiss collecting? That's what you need to be looking at. You know,
right. Not many. They're there, but not many.
I think the Beatles are their own entity.
Yes, you have to separate.
I mean, I think the Beatles will be collectible forever. I think the thing is, I think for a lot of these, and Kiss is one of these bands, and Elvis is another one, you don't really have an outlet to hear Elvis all that much anymore. You know? Right. You still hear Frank Sinatra around, like out in the ether, wherever that is, at a, you know, if you're at a mall. I can't, you know what I mean? Like, you'll just hear it out in the ether. You'll hear the Beatles just out there on commercials, and you'll hear that stuff all the time. Really, Elvis is shot. You just don't have an outlet to hear him anymore. Kiss was never a singles band, so you wonder, will the music, the music won't really live on in any way, shape, or form outside of collectors and bands. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. It's a long-winded way of saying I don't know.
So do you think, Joe, that now is the time? Well,
now was the time.
Right, coronavirus aside, is now the time to sell your high-end collectibles while there's still a good market, a good amount of people like me that's still looking for stuff? Or do you want to wait 10 more years to see if it increases or possibly the bottom drops out of it?
I think my opinion is that we just saw the height of the Kiss market. We just saw it. I don't think we're ever going to get back to that kind of economic boom time tied with a band sort of going out, and people kind of getting that feeling of, hey, I'm going to get rid of some stuff. And yeah, I just don't think you're going to... I think that was kind of it. I think that was the height of it. I'm not saying it's going to tank or crash. I just feel like, will people still be paying thousands of dollars for records and stuff? I don't know.
So you think the collecting industry as a whole by this time next year will not be what it was 2 months ago before the...
No, I don't think so.
Gotcha. Not just Kiss, just collecting in general.
My personal opinion is I think people are taking the economic impact of what's going to happen a little lightly. And I think there's going to be a big reverberation in the economy in general. There's no way you can look at those jobless claims and not have it take your breath away,
Right.
And if it goes on much, much longer, those businesses just can't be sustained, period.
Right.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens. I do not think in 2 months you're going to be back to where we were. Maybe...
no, not in 2 months.
I mean, if you were looking at maybe a year and a half... but you would have to see such a huge trajectory back up.
Sure.
I don't know, man. Disposable income is going to be an interesting thing coming down the pike here. And then
I agree.
What happens with the band? Like, they were going to go out on their, in a blaze of glory. What happens to them now? I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Yes, it is an interesting question and a scary question. So we just got a few more here, 3 or 4, and then we'll wrap it up, and that'll be all the questions. Let's see. Tommy Thompson asks a hypothetical question for our opinions.
Second one.
Yeah,
Is it the same Tommy Thompson?
The same Tommy Thompson. He had like 5 questions, but I kind of narrowed it down to a couple. He said, actually, this one even says P.S. There are some really cool bootleg box sets out there with unreleased picture books, photos, backstage passes, stickers. I agree. There's some amazing work that some of these bootleg guys are doing, and I bought most all of those coming out of Europe. They're really incredible. He said, imagine Kiss doing the ultimate box set. What do we think should be in that box set?
Wow.
Bum, bum, bum. Come on, designer guys.
Oh, you mean from not the content of the music? You mean what you would do
All of it.
from a visual, or like
All
what would
of
you
it.
put in there?
Because the newest one has a smaller scale version of. Oh, actually, I don't know if it's smaller scale. It may be the same size. Counterfeit of the first album promo poster, but it says a Repro 2020 on it, which is good.
Yeah.
But Kiss can do because they did with Hysteria they reprinted posters and stuff like that. So what would be that ultimate kind of box set? Is it Hysteria or is it something? Is it something different?
I mean, the coolest things that I've ever seen from another band doing it, apart from, we talked about in the last episode, Metallica and the Pink Floyd doing those full length things. But you can also go out and do. I've always wanted them to do. The Rolling Stones came out with a whole set, maybe about 5, possibly longer, maybe 10 or 15 years ago now. It was called the Official Bootleg Series. I don't know if you saw those. It was there's like a live '73 concert, a live. I can't remember now, so I'll pop some of them up on screen. There's about 4 or 5 of them from different tours, and they released them on vinyl and on CD and download. You could get them, and they were so cool. And they were they were called the Official Bootlegs. And I think Dylan's released a whole series, and I know Grateful Dead probably got 60 billion of them, official bootlegs. But I'd like to see going in that direction stuff. Making official versions of of other stuff that's out there, because I mean, what more can you do with creating another Hysteria, repackaging the same albums,
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You can, and you can split it up too, and you can do like Def Leppard did, or something like that, where you don't put all the records in one set and make it astronomically expensive, where most of the people aren't going to spend $2,000 for it. You put it something like this, it's $150, and you do, the first 6 studio albums, and you expand each one of them, all of them with colored vinyl that makes sense with the cover. The second disc has either a live show or demos on it, or basically you put a live show from each record, and then do a brand new record like there is in this Def Leppard, where it has like rarities and stuff like that. So you put a bunch of demos and
era specific stuff. Yeah,
right, era specific alternate remixes were like on the singles and stuff like that. And then you do a cool book with it. I mean, I would buy that. I think if it's got stuff that you can't get anywhere else other than in that particular package, then I think that's a winner. I agree. Right.
Yeah, I think anything era-specific that could make it the definitive release from the band, including the band themselves. You need to have the band involved, allow whoever's going through that stuff to really look through the vaults of music and memorabilia and all that type of stuff. Do the definitive thing, show all the outtakes from photo shoots, show photos that we've never seen before, scrapbook style stuff. I'd love to see a box for the definitive Kiss records for each one of them, done up as, pick 4 or 5 of them and blow them out,
Yeah.
I think
agree.
you have to be that type of person though. Like I watched a thing the other day of Jimmy Page talking about it, and he's like, I went through my stuff and I archived every recording, and then I put them all in order of when they were recorded, and each mix I filed under, like, I went through my archives and carefully, like, Jimmy Page is that kind of
Absolutely.
he's almost like a collector himself. Like I know Gene did his box set, but I think he just went put that all out. But Jimmy was actually every mix, and he ordered the mix, and then he knew what soundboard this was from. Like he's so, I mean, because obviously he hasn't got any touring to do, so he can spend a lot of time on archival stuff.
And it must interest him too.
It must interest him.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at it like, everybody imagine your basement, or imagine your den closet, or imagine your whatever, where, how's your stuff organized? Are you an organized person, or are you not? Do you keep a lot of
Yes.
stuff? Yeah, Jason Herndon, that would be a no. But, so each individual person is going to have... It's not like Peter Criss, I can't imagine, has a Kiss room where all of his stuff is in a Kiss. He's got boxes in a basement someplace. They might even be in a storeroom somewhere. And now you have to find people that you trust to go through that stuff, and then people who you trust who know what they're looking at when they see it and can go, hey, this is an archaeological dig kind of a thing, and these are his boots from this time, and you could take a photo of that and somehow incorporate... Who knows, man?
Some people just throw stuff out, like say Ace may have all these demos for all the '70s stuff. He may have gone at one point, I'm moving house, a bunch of cassettes, throw them out.
Sure.
And some of these guys are not unlike us, where, hey, I need to buy something, so I'm going to get rid of some stuff to some fans to buy some stuff. I need a down payment on a house, so I'm going to sell some things, and, you know.
Right.
I just don't think it's as easy as that. I mean, there's a ton of cool stuff you could do, but you have to know what kind of material is there and how easy it is to sift through.
Right. That's exactly right. Good answer. All right. Last couple. Walter Ruther asks, has anyone ever tried to put together a catalog or a price guide for all the 70s non-official Kiss merchandise, especially press kits, promo items, early merch from the 70s before 75, such as the iron-ons, the posters, etc. Anyone doing that, Nicholas?
Price guide, you mean?
Not necessarily. It could be a catalog. He says a catalog or a price guide. A catalog of all of the...
There's always room for something like that, of course. Who knows? Whether it's me or some other idiot who wants to... to go down that rabbit hole,
Somebody else who has a 2-hour commute each way. Every day.
Yeah. I've always hoped, that, and of course we've talked about it before on the show, that Nicholas and Joe would maybe get to working on, the follow-up to the hottest brand in the land book and do promo items and stuff like that. I think that would be excellent, but...
May happen. Who knows?
May happen. Who knows? So, to the question, Walter, I don't think anyone has ever done that. There's lots of old price guides out there from the 90s and the 2000s that have some of that stuff peppered into it. But as far as a complete guide like Nicholas and Joe did with the hottest brand in the land of all the 70s purchasable merchandise, I don't think that's ever been done on the promo stuff, and it needs to be done. So, and hottest brand needs a companion. So, get to work. There's everybody has plenty of time. Get to work. So, and then the last question, I saved this one for last on purpose because hopefully, if my wife ever watches this episode, which she doesn't, but if she ever does, she won't watch this far into it.
Yeah, you got to bury all the secrets this far into it.
That's right. Here it is. Anna Luddy from the UK asks, have you ever lied about the cost or hidden an expensive Kiss collectible from your spouse? If so,
just one?
What was right? What's the
have
story
you ever
about?
This week? Nicholas Buckland, this is to you.
No, to me too. So, You got a
Jason,
story, Nick?
you're red, so you've given
I've
yourself
never
away.
had sexual relations with that woman.
I vote to impeach.
Exactly. Yes.
Look around the corner. Make sure Sarah's not watching.
Yeah. I have never done that before in my life.
You lying son of a bitch. Okay, so I do it often. And when I have stuff come in and she yells at me about it, not all the time, but I don't always lie about it, but sometimes. Like if I have a few too many things coming in, I'll say, oh, somebody from the group said, hey, I got an extra one of these. I'm going to send it to you for free.
Yeah.
People do that all the time, you know?
Yeah.
People don't do that all the time, and they really should do that all the time. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I machine. Yeah, some guy just wanted to ship it to me for like $4,000. Out of the goodness of his heart.
I don't know how this pinball machine, why he wanted to give it to me, but
yeah.
No, I have had some very nice viewers send some items. Usually nothing, super valuable or anything like that. But I've gotten some really cool items from some of the viewers that they heard me talk about and said, "Hey, huh?"
Full of their pubic hair.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, absolutely. I've had a couple of really good friends send me stuff they've heard me talk about before, and I really appreciate that kind of stuff. And I have things come in all the time, not all the time, but I used to have a lot of bootleg stuff coming in, like burned discs of stuff. That doesn't cost any money. That stuff does get sent to me. But every now and then I'll purchase something, and if she sees that it looks like some kind of expensive Kiss item, I might. Can
you think of anything recently, Jason, that might have been, like, very recently?
Joe, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. So,
holy
God,
moly.
I hope she never watches this. So, but
she knows already, Jason.
The hardest,
you're keeping a secret to yourself.
the toughest
Somewhere
part,
she senses it. She's somewhere in the house going.
Yeah.
I felt a great disturbance in the force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. I fear something terrible has happened.
she's in bed right now. The toughest part about it is, and everybody knows, she's our mail lady. Then everything gets sent USPS. So there's no hiding it coming. So I have to come up with something. And I can't think of specific stuff, but something will come that I might have paid $50 or $60 for, and I told her it cost $20, or something will come that costs $300, and I told her it cost $20.
Yeah. Just move the decimal point.
Right.
Starting to run out of excuses. She goes, "What's this?" She goes, "No speak English." I can't do anything more. Wrong number.
Oh God! So I am guilty as charged. I'm sure Nicholas is guilty as charged too.
Nicholas.
She can't hear me, or can she?
All I can say is thanks for sending me those 2014s free of charge.
Oh yes, exactly. Exactly. Oh, that's a good example. God, I hope she never watches this. I may think about it and edit this out. I don't know, but so I got the Def Leppard box that came in from my work, and I got Nicholas's 2014s that came in from my work, and they came in two different boxes, and she was wanting to know what in the hell it was, and of course I had the ultimate excuse for this. Nicholas bought those. I'm going to send them to him because I can get a better rate than what our company can, including the Def Leppard box. Oh yeah, he's a huge Def Leppard fan.
Oh, love it. Love it almost as much as the American hair metal.
So Joe, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to worry.
Never have. No.
Freedom.
as long as that's the advantage of having your finances separate, and as long as you pay your commitments.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any difference if it was combined. Really, honestly, it wouldn't make any difference. I don't know. I guess I pick and I just don't have that kind of relationship. It's weird. I don't know. I just kind of pick and choose and just kind of buy and share, and as long as I guess we have the kind of relationship where as long as we both can look at the finances objectively and go, hey, should we be spending that money? And I guess that's why the relationship works, and we can kind of go, hey, it's all cool, and
yeah,
if you want to buy some shoes or you want to buy a shirt and I want to buy a hoodie and some new pair of Nikes and we can afford it, it's no different really than a Kiss record, really, at the end of the day. Why do I need another pair of tennis shoes, or you know what I mean? I don't know.
Sure.
It all goes back to that original question of how do you budget for this stuff, right? Apparently you two suckers don't. So you have to do everything under the cover of night. I mean, only Jason does. Nicholas, I'm not speaking for you. I'm just talking about because he's the one who's implicated himself. I don't know. I just feel like if you enjoy it, your partner should understand that you enjoy it. And if you both can take an objective look at finances, and this is part of my entertainment and what I do. This was not a secret from anybody when I got into the relationship.
Right.
This is,
I do want to clarify. Thanks.
I'd like a minute for rebuttal.
Can I approach the bench runner?
Yes. I object.
What's that My Cousin Vinny where he makes that whole speech to the judge and the judge says, that was a very cogent, well-stated argument. Overruled. God damn it.
Wasn't that you said My Cousin Vinny, right?
My Cousin Vinny, yeah.
Wasn't that the guy that played...
Yeah, Herman Munster.
Herman Munster, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. No, I just want to clarify that I don't do things to put our family in jeopardy.
No, and that's not what I was saying.
I don't go out and spend $2,000 and not tell my wife. I might spend $50 or $60 on something and just kind of say, I just spent $25 on it. 9 times out of 10, her biggest complaint is I keep buying shit and the area that it's in looks like this. She says, stop buying shit until you get this. That's what pisses her off. More shit comes in, nothing goes out, and nothing gets put away. That's her biggest complaint. I don't do anything that puts us in jeopardy.
Of course. And, and we're all sensible that way. It's I guess, just different ways of looking at relationships and how they work. And
sure.
Does your partner fully understand and embrace what you're doing or not? Is it keeping you from doing something that you really want to do? I mean, look, Jason, you're a big-time Kiss collector. You've been able to move into a bigger house.
Sure.
You have a successful career. Stacy has a nice career, and it just. So right. What's the harm or foul if you? It's not like, oh, we're going to go to the movies this week, or we're going to buy a Kiss record.
Never like that.
So
I also look at, because I'm selling a few like doubles that I have of stuff, and I always say, well, I probably took money away from the household by spending $150 on this 5 or 6 years ago, but now I'm selling it for $600 or $700. Right. I probably spent, I spent a certain amount of money on something, and then someone else bought it for way more. So in the end, it's a good investment, and I got to enjoy it in the meantime. Because in the end, I probably will sell it all, like somewhere down the track, 10, 15 years. I may not enjoy it at that age. So, but right. By that, we just had a discussion about the market, so it may be a crazy idea. But if the market does pick
$5.
Up, but for a lot of this stuff, because a lot of this vintage stuff I've had for quite a while, so 2006 to 2010, that kind of era was when I did most of my buying, and I'll make it back, tenfold on some of this stuff easily. So if you look at it as an investment, even though it was probably, I don't know, maybe it was a frivolous purchase at the time. I think the money you bring back into the household will beat the money that you took out of the household. So I think that's what I say to Sarah, and it's the balance of it all,
Right.
Well, and it's not right, and it's not keeping you from doing anything. It's not like, gosh, if you wouldn't have bought that whatever it is, You know that.
Yeah,
poster,
I mean,
you know,
Nicholas just, I just bought a new house.
I wouldn't have been able to do if I hadn't bought that stuff, I wouldn't have been able to photograph it for the book, and the book made us a lot of money. So, you know what I mean? Like, so it was an investment to bring that in. That's not the reason that's not the reason you bought it, though. You bought it, wanted it. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mean, if you're looking at money goes in, money goes out in terms of family finances, I will have contributed way more coming in than way more went out in the grand scheme of things. Yeah.
Not to be too Dr. Joe about it, but, you know, I see all kinds of people come into the record store. All kinds of dudes come into the record store. And they're like, oh, my God, my wife is going to kill me now that I found this place. You know, there's a new record store. She's going to kill me for spending this money and that. And I just have never understood that kind of, like, is that why you're in a relationship, to duck and dodge and have a square 13-inch by 13-inch package under your coat or your winter jacket when you come in? I mean, that's no fun, right? Like, shouldn't you sort of both? You know,
I think a lot of people say that as a joke too. They almost mean that this feels like a lot of money. You know, oh, my wife will kill me. You know, they don't actually mean she'll literally divorce you for actually doing it.
Of course, not literally, but there is always some truth to the joke on some level, right? That had to have percolated up at some point where, God damn it, you spend all that money on those records, but that's what I like to do, and that's my entertainment. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Magic beans. It's like jacket of beans.
So I don't know. It's an interesting you know, thought, and I think it goes back to that budget discussion too. Of
sure,
if you keep it secret, keep it safe.
You keep it secret.
Well, it's the old gambling thing in some ways. You know, only bet as much as you can afford to lose. You need to have already be able to lose that before you bet it. And once you start going, you're betting suddenly. You know.
Well,
you hear some of those tradesmen on payday where they go to the local. I don't know if your pubs have it, but they have the pubs themselves have the pokie machine rooms. I think they're in your casinos mainly, aren't they?
Yeah,
but our pubs have a row of them in every pub, and some of these tradies they get paid on a Thursday and you know get drunk and blow their entire wages gone on that night, and then they don't have anything for a week's time. So, I mean that's where you get into that addiction phase of. The addiction becomes stronger than your responsibility to money, you know.
No, I mean,
I don't think any of us are addicted to that level.
Yeah.
No. I definitely have self-control, and a good example of it is, you know, with the okay profits that we made from selling the Ace record. I had a chunk of money set in the savings account, and Stacy said, "Why don't you take that money and finally go buy a pinball machine? Find you a pinball machine that." Isn't, you know, a $10,000 machine because we didn't make anywhere near that kind of money, but you know, a well-worn Kiss pinball machine that I've always wanted, and I decided not to, and I kept it there, and now I'm lucky that I did because that's part of our cushion for what's going on right now. So I haven't touched any of that money, and I could have done that. I could have went out and bought a pinball machine, you know, for a couple $1,000s or something, but I decided not to. So
yeah, when we burn through the first couple of million, I'm gonna be at my belt now.
Yeah.
So, well, we've established that Joe has no issues, and Nicholas and I need to see therapists. Got it.
You need to sit down and have a talk with your wives.
Right.
Or Dr. Joe.
Or Dr. Joe. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I've got nothing else to do. Just PM me.
He's got the cure you weren't thinking of.
Oh my God!
They call me Dr.
All right, well,
No.
That's all the questions we have, guys.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
Right on time.
Right on. Oh, is it on time? Great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to everybody for submitting them. If anybody wants to comment or answer any of those questions that were posed to us and have better answers than us, please post your answers below. We don't know everything. Nobody does. So, and if that's it, guys, stay safe. We'll see you on the next one.
Hi, everybody. It's Gene Simmons, and you're not. This is Kiss My Collectibles podcast, but you knew that.